All right, now let's go to the actual mailbag segment. Mailbags again. Questions from listeners in regards to the real estate transaction, what to do during buying and selling. We get these through a number of ways. The easiest way is to go to keepingitre.com, top right corner. Hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, even YouTube. It's kind of cool. We get comments on YouTube videos that turn into questions for the mailbag. You can always leave it on voicemail, 562-888-BEACH. Or send me an email at the incredibly long email address, keepingitrealestateonthebeach at
People
gmail.com.
actually see us?
Yes. You'd be surprised.
Right.
We have thousands and thousands of views on our YouTube channel, and it's relatively young. It's about 5-6 months old.
Usually when somebody says, I saw on YouTube, I tell them, look, I was young.
Exactly.
And I needed the money.
I needed the money.
I had somebody call me and say, hey, so can you settle a bet for us? I'm like, okay. It was 2 clients. What are you?
I'm the mortgage mistress.
I'm like, what is? Because these were clients up in NorCal, and I've never met them. I've talked to them all the time, but I've never met them. And they're like, "What are you?" I go, "What do you mean? Are you African American? Are you Filipino?
Oh, they wanted to know.
Are you a dominatrix?
We've got, I know, mortgage mistress. What are you?
To put you in leather and spikes and
like,
stuff.
That would be so much fun.
That'd be
and
great.
this was when we first
Halloween
started.
show.
I was like, how do you know what I look like?
Yeah.
Because it's on YouTube. We record
we've seen all
in the
your
studio.
videos. I was like, oh.
Well, think about this. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world behind Google, who happens to own it. Far more people search on YouTube for answers to questions than search Yahoo and Bing and Ask and the rest of them. So it's really people, they type their questions into YouTube because, I don't know about you guys, but you can fix anything or you can do a how-to anything on your own if you go to YouTube first. How do I change a light bulb is on there. And then stuff like, how do I change from YouTube University. See? Mm-hmm. How do I do gardening? How do I change the peat trap under my sink? All those things happen on YouTube, and so people search for questions and real estate related questions. So there's a long drawn out thing, but go to YouTube and comment on a video and it could turn into a mailbag question.
Frank learned his dance moves on YouTube.
Yes.
Yeah.
He did?
This one.
Frank, you're so good.
Actually, I think it was Kevin that was demonstrating.
Oh, yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about Aaron's question, and this is AARON, not ERIN. So Aaron wants to know, the bank foreclosed on a property one day before the scheduled escrow closing of an approved short sale. Can the buyers and sellers fight the bank? Frank?
Well, I mean, you can fight the bank, but you need to read the contracts. Was there an allowance for an extension? And it looks like the extension didn't happen. The close date is set when it's set. When it goes to that courthouse step, and more than likely they knew that day was approaching, and they were just hoping and praying maybe that it.
But Frank, one day
this does. I mean, I'm kind of surprised. This is horrible, but this happens more often than you think.
Really?
Yeah.
That sucks. Banks suck.
The short sale department, pardon me, is not talking to the foreclosure department.
Right.
So they are acting independently with
probably in 2 different cities.
Well, I'm sure they're
completely
probably
separate.
different countries.
Yeah.
And so this happens a lot. Now, I do know that we currently have a couple transactions that are being unwound.
Unwound meaning they've fallen apart?
No, the buyer who lost it to foreclosure gets a lawyer, contacts B of A or Wells. It tends to be the big
here's the
three,
nugget.
Chase, Wells, B of A. And they then go in and unwind it. They pay the investor off on the foreclosure. They deed the house back. But it's a lot of legal wrangling, lawyers,
and
courts, and time.
So who pays for all that?
And if
The new buyer, right?
Like Kevin say, it might not be the biggest challenge in the world if the stars align. If it went back to the Benny and the Benny was the bank and not an investor, and that bank that was their other department short sale was the one that was allowing the sale, and it's the same bank that foreclosed on it, they can probably hash things and work things out. Because remember, the foreclosure department at some point wants to sell it anyways, and if the short sale department already had it being sold, they can probably work things out. If it's an investor, it's a little more difficult because it's an outside entity that's only being serviced by that bank.
So the big problem here is in the assumption is that in Aaron's case, the short sale department of Big Bank A had no idea what the foreclosure department of Big Bank A was doing on this property.
Well, actually, you can't say that they didn't have complete knowledge because everybody knows when the sale date is approaching. That's why you ask for an extension on that sale date.
Documentation.
You would think in this computer age.
If you kept the transaction, and I've heard of this where you kept the transaction going, hoping to close before the date. Okay, that's fine. But let's say you applied or requested the extension or delay of the sale date, and you were denied, and you went for it anyways. And there's really no one else to blame. You knew that you were denied that sale date, and if you didn't meet it before, then it was going to happen.
All right. Well, in Aaron's case, Aaron, I'm sorry that you got hosed by the big bank. But Kevin threw out a nugget. You may be able to get a lawyer involved and unwind it, as Kevin said, or fix the problem.
The three big banks all have class action suits against them over things like this.
Because they suck.
So,
City doesn't?
Pardon me?
City doesn't?
I don't know. Probably. Because they're pretty, they're
probably
pretty.
the big four again.
Yeah, well, just remember what they said in the 80s. Countrywide is on your side.
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah. And now they're on nobody's side. But anyway,